Hello again, everybody. It's Harry Box with the Technical Trader at thetechtrader.com. It's Saturday, the 17th of December. Only 8 days away from Christmas, and the market is having a tough time after rallying sharply from the October lows. You take an S&P from looks like a spike low down here and a reversal down around 34.91. Excuse me. We double top recently, including last week, 4,100, 300 points plus. But we've come down very sharply. You can take a look at, especially the last 3 days, the S&P from the Tuesday high at 4,100 and dropped down to 38.28. 270 points. It's a pretty massive drop in a very quick period of time. But more importantly, it took out the trend line, lateral price support, and actually closed below the 50. That's the first time in a month, and at this point, if we don't hold it right here and rally back, or even if we do and fail there, we could go lower, and the target's now 3,700 and 36.35 in that area. The NASDAQ 100, similarly, excuse me, got up to the 4-point declining top sign, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wave down, and rallied back. We couldn't hold it, couldn't break through the double, triple top up here near 12,000. 12,115, 25 range. Well, we came down pretty hard from Tuesday when we reached as high as 12,166 to tag 11,175, 1,000 points down in just 4 days on the NASDAQ 100. Pretty ugly, and it broke support, trend line, and moving average. So for me, again, there may be a kiss back, but if it's a weak one, we are in trouble early next week. Love to see a climax plunge that gets it down to test the 10.7 area on the NASDAQ 100 and testing at least the 3660 to 3700 zone on the S&P. Transportation also on the precipice, closed right on them 50 near the moving average, price support, etc. If we break here, we're looking at something in the 12.9 to 13.1 zone at the very least. The IWM, small cap index. You can see after breaking out what it looks like a breakout here, headed into the sharp decline that bounced near the declining top sign, and now we're rolling over again. There's massive support around 163 on the IWM, but a break there, we're looking at 152 and even 145. So it could be climax time for the markets if we can get some kind of downside, projection. Let's look at the components. Apple on the precipice of a massive topping breaking down of a massive top formation. That's taken a year and a half to develop. The last big support is 129.30, and we closed at 134.44, down 206 on Friday. That Thursday and Friday's action, Friday was an engulfing bearish reversal. Got right to the breakdown point on the apex of this big wedge and failed. That's not a good sign at all. So I'm worried about Apple leading the market lower, and those are your numbers: 129.5, 30, and 123. Those are incredible targets, but that's what could happen here. Amazon, not much better. As a matter of fact, Amazon's lost 100 points from 187 to 87, and just since a year ago. So in 1 year, huge drop in a 1, 2, 3, 4 big fifth wave down. Then a bounce. Or we may make lower lows here. You can see how important Amazon support is in this zone. This goes back 3.5, almost 4 years now. You get to that level, and we're probably looking at a breakdown. It takes a look at 65, 68. And wouldn't that be something? But it wouldn't surprise me if it spikes down into that zone. So watch for that to occur. If that does occur, you obviously, with Apple and Amazon dropping that way, be a complete disaster for the market. Implosion. Google, kind of the same. We've had a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wave decline. Nice move up in the platform, but that broke down last week. Gap was filled right there. We're on that level. Either we bounce in here, or we come down and test the 84, 86 zone. The next support for Google will be right there. Netflix crushed on a bad report. To get all the way up to 332.3 range and plunge to 290. And quite frankly, any move under here, 278, S277, 78, could plunge Netflix into the 255 area. So precarious indeed as well. It's had a long run up as well. Meta is looking much better. That's one of the better looking stocks on the board. And you can see on the bottom, when I say on the board, I'm talking about the NASDAQ general list. Look at this chart. Even on Friday, it allows the market, this was up 310. The bottom, the wedge or coil, and then it popped another one, is exhausted the 5-way move. And we're at resistance, so I'm not enamored with it. But any bull face could get this one up to 139. However, you can also see that for a couple, 3 weeks now, 112.90, 113's held. That's your support for next week. On Meta. Semiconductor is not doing great, especially the last couple of days. NVIDIA, after having a beautiful run, we saw it go from the October low, 108. It was spike high last week early, 188. And that's a huge run up in NVIDIA. And it got right to a double, triple, quadruple top area and backed away. So at this point, I'm looking to see whether this holds here. This is a big one, 150, 149.50. Yep, 151 actually. So the 149 and 151 zone, that 2-point zone there with the moving average here as well is big support for NVIDIA. Tesla's having a very tough time, and it is really getting hammered. From 320 just in September, it's now 149. That's a monstrous drop. 170 points down in 4 months for Tesla, as Elon Musk flitters away his money, and now I'm hearing that Twitter may have to file bankruptcy as well. Anyway, it's not a pretty chart, and a massive multi-year top as well in place. I wouldn't be shocked to see Tesla get down to 132 and maybe even 95 to 101 in that area. Tough. Ugly chart. Broken through the bottom of the channel, never a good thing. Okay, so let's get over the charts for the NASDAQ 100 components. We've done that. And look at some of the ETFs I like. Well, the SMH semiconductors used to lead the market along with biotechs, and they certainly are leading them. Now, after breaking out on a head fake on Tuesday, big reversal, taking this from 234.5 to 213, and it closed at the low for the week on support. Any further damage here, you're probably going to test the 50 near 203.5. We break that, we have a big problem into the high 180s, low 190s. So we need to hold it here if this market has any chance of a turnaround. Financials doing very well until last week when it popped and then dropped. And we're right on that pullback low from the beginning of November that if broken could lead to also a disastrous plunge into the high 50s. 69 last, you got to be careful with this one. And finally, XBI, the biotech group that I follow, look, it's actually not doing terribly. And I believe the biotechs are going to be a large part of my top 25 list for next year, which comes out in a week. But more importantly, you can see that during this whole market decline, this biotech index hung out really well. That's because a lot of individual stocks, besides the ones that go down, there's quite a few that are moving up, and I'll highlight some of them later on today. Anyway, there you have it for the XBI biotech index. And of course, we always follow LABU. It's a triple. It's right on support. Really need to hold it here because a plunge here could get me down in the 4.5 range. That would lead to a disastrous move, of course. Oil, USO in a downtrend, I believe. Still think oil could head lower, perhaps in the 59.60 range near term. As a result, the SCO bear ETF has formed a beautiful base for oil. I'm targeting 30 and 31.5. We get through that, you break out of a big base and you head to the mid to high 30s. Let's look at oil, and it doesn't look pretty. What about gas? Well, BOIL. They're plunging, bouncing and plunging again and getting right to a key support area from December, January of 21. If they're bouncing now, it's pulled back in a V, well, it looks like a V bottom with a right-handed extension, but it really needs to hold Friday's low, so I'm keeping that in mind. Stop on the 31.5. Your targets of 40 and 48. If we go, and on the opposite side is KOLD, which is interesting because the long and short side look similar. Here's both. You'll see the V bottom with the right-hand extension on Boyle, yet cold, which should look like the opposite, looks similar. Going to be really interesting to see what that complex does. Let's look at gold and natural gas. Oil and natural gas. And now let's look at gold. The GDX is pulled back to a support level. It needs to hold ideally, or you might get a test into the 26.5 three-quarter range. If we do pop, particularly above the double top here, 30, 40, you might see 33.5 and 35. That's GDX. JNUG, which I like a lot too, a little different, but a nice bottoming pattern, breakout, retest, and pop to the target zone. Now this angle of ascent has been broken, and key support lies right now at 30.5. It's on JNUG. Nugget looks same. Support near 30.5. Double top resistance right there. 38-ish. We get to target mid-40s. All right. That's a look at the ETFs that I wanted to cover today. We got a lot of stocks to go over. Let's do it. Well, before I do that, just a quick look at the underlying technicals for the market. You can see the McClellan oscillator, which was plus 237.38, and that was only November 1st. 6 weeks later, it's minus 125 change. It did get to 157 on Friday. 157, when you draw a line across here, see many lows have come in that zone in here. But we've also seen quite a few that have plunged below that and gotten steeply oversold in minus 200 and even minus 250, 60, 70. So let's look to see if we get an extension to the downside and a quick one and maybe a washout early next week and we get this thing turned around. For now, though, the trend is your friend. The trend is still down. And you can see how stocks have deteriorated dramatically. Here's the stocks I want to talk about today. ACLX, after popping in May and a long multi-month coil had a breakaway gap a week ago, had a beautiful extension until it kind of pulled back from 34 on Thursday. Nevertheless, if it backs and fills and sets up, you may see high 30s and low 40s. AEHR continues to be a favorite of mine. After breaking out here and here, we put swings on it. It worked both times. Now we have a double top up there 28.25.5, but we have a double bottom around 22, 22.5. If we can get up through that, I would look for an extension in the low to mid 30s. Support is up 20.5 three-quarters. AGQ, the silver ETF, wanted to show you that. It didn't show it to you before. Beautiful pattern, base, breakaway gap, wedge, another breakaway gap, and then a run up, pull back, retest of resistance and target, and then a back away, pull back in an ongoing uptrend. I believe we'll see 36.7 on this one in the near future. Agilysys, what a move on Thursday and Friday in the midst of a lousy market. This stock went vertical from 62 to 82, 20 points in just a couple days. Big volume and a breakout. And guess what? New all-time highs. When you see that, you often have momentum to the upside, maybe get an extension, but it is at the top of the channel and you'd like to see some consolidation. AKRO, how about this breakaway gap? Wedge, a beautiful wedge, and a rising channel. Right now, about to break out of that channel. Mid-channel targets are 55, upper channel targets are 62.3. APS broke out. We put a swing on it. It reached target number 1 and back and fill. This is now 6 weeks. We need the stock to hold it right there and come back up again. Your targets are 20 and 25. If it does, then be careful because a breakdown here could lead to a test of the gap near 14. ARCE, breakaway gap, run up to resistance, back and fill and flag. Looks pretty good to me. Might be a target if it breaks out. If this thing breaks out above 13.5, you might see the stock at 15 and 17 range. ARDX, rising channel. Take a look at the bottoming pattern it had last summer when it kind of did a left shoulder head and a right shoulder, inverse head and shoulder. There's your breakout. And from that point, 71 cents. It tripled to 220, 219. Now it's wedging. Something to watch for an extension move. My target's at 310 and 350. ARRY inverse head and shoulder here. Breakaway move. We had to put a swing on it. It popped to the target and pulled back to test the breakaway point. Moved up to resistance now. Your next target 27.32. ATAT. New issue came down, then exploded. No wedge. It's right near the apex of the wedge on low volume ebb. I like that. The measure move for this one, believe it or not, 7 points or 21.5 as the target. ATEC. I'm showing you this because after a long decline, it's at the apex of a large coil. It's near resistance, both declining top line and lateral resistance. So we'll keep an eye on it because any move above, say, 11 could explode this one to the 13 range. AU, another gold stock I like. Breakaway move, rising channel. Keep an eye on this one. 22 and 25 targets. AXSM, a tech trader swing, a beautiful rising pattern. Keep hearing rumors about $100 takeover. We shall see. The AND, software stock breakout, pullback, held the gap. We put a swing on it. It went from about the 16, 17 zone, eventually making it up to 27 range. So it's up about 10 points. It still looks pretty good. My targets are 29 and 33. The EAT exploded in September, pulled back in October, November, formed the coil, broke out, retested, popped, is now retesting yet again, and then snapped back a little bit on Friday. But my target 6 3/4 and 8. BIVI, fantastic chart. Long downtrend, sort of going from the 50s down to single digits, down near 133 low, 13.5 last. That took about 5-6 months, but look at the trend recently. A steep pullback to the moving average and lateral price support, held hard at around 4,410. Now it's tripled to 1350 and then some. Next target 18. BTU, ongoing large long-term uptrend, multi-month consolidation. Keep an eye over 32.3 that I think could rip. BYSI, what a move last week. Up every day last week. It's been up 6 days in a row from 55 cents to 258. Basically, 5-fold increase in 6 days. With 26 million shares traded on Friday near resistance, I would say be careful, but momentum could carry this even further, 3.5, 4. Next week, it might be a play. CABA, beautiful rising channel. Came down from the mid-teens all the way down to 60 cents. And subsequently gone 11-fold to 660. And it's still in an uptrend. Wow, what a chart. Next target 9. CECO popped out. We put a swing on it and ran up to the resistance level and target, but it's been having a tough time the last few weeks. As long as it holds this level, I'm still good with it. That would be about 10.85. You break out over 13, over 12.90, could run it into the high mid-teens and then high teens. CLDX, another biotech with an inverse head and shoulder and a breakout. Pull back on Friday, might be an entry op. I would think a possible look at and rally back into the mid-50s might occur on this one. This looks like a good possibility for next year. CPRX pulled back on Friday and Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and slightly broke support. It's still above the moving average, but it's below trend line. Lateral price support and moving averages might be dangerous. Be careful. DADA. I put a swing on it because I believe, based on its 4-day consolidation and resistance, once it gets through, it's going to run to 9.5 and 11. Nice chart. DocuSign, long downtrend. At its peak, DocuSign was $310, $15. At the low in November, 39.5. They retested it a few weeks later. Now broken out. After breaking out for a couple of days, it pulled back. It's right on support. Next target, 68. DYN, long downtrend, pop, hold the platform, falling pattern, breakout right there. Wednesday was a big day. Thursday, Friday, 2 inside days. Your targets are 15 3/4 and 18. EDU, a tech trader swing, popped out, pulled back, popped again, pulled back, and popped yet again. It's been stair-stepping its way higher, but I don't think it's done until it gets to 38.40. Elf on the shelf. Well, this stock's been on my list for months. Look at it. Amazing. V bottom, right hand extension, breakout. Rising channel, a strong one, and then an acceleration. Then a flag, then a retest, and then a pop. 63 target. EPOW, personal position of mine. I first started talking to you guys about it at 2.5, 3 quarters. It spiked to 5 recently on some contract news. They had a massive contract. And now the pullback. I think it's a low volume pullback that's going to be bought at some point for moving to the 6 range. ETNB, beautiful long-term biotech stock. In May, the stock traded at 2. Friday's high was over 10, 1080. So it's a 5-fold increase. And it's a beautiful 45-degree angle rising channel. And my target now is 15. Etsy, breaking out of a base and forming a wedge on support. Targeting 140 and 160 if it goes. EXAS, important major breakaway on news on Friday. Wasn't the best close, but still was up 774 or 17% at 52.35 with a high of 56.5. So there is resistance up there, so I'm not surprised it backed off. But any move to that level, and you might start to see mid-60s. FDMT, explosive move, and a rising flag. It's a beauty. We have a tech trade swing on it, targeting 29.32. For solar, monster of the midway, one of the, it's the biggest solar stock around. Breakaway gap, pop flag, running channel, retest the moving average, create a new rising channel, run up to the top of that channel at lateral resistance at my 175 target, folks. It tagged it. We got within a point. And now the pullback. This has to hold 144, in my opinion. That's where you stop it. If it runs 175 and 195 are targets. FUTU, breaking out of a big base pattern and running up very sharply. Look at the island reversal here, down at 28. And here it is, last week's high, about 72. 28 to 72 in about 6-7 weeks. A little extended, yeah, but if it pulls back and consolidates in that zone, it may be setting up for, $100. GDX, we showed you earlier, that's a gold ETF. GLSI, this one, if you may remember the day this stock went bonkers and literally went from 67 to 128. And of course, returned to sender. It took lots of months. And then you form the coiling base pattern. There's your breakout and a flag underway. Keep an eye on this one. Targets are 15 and 18. Maybe more. Go to. Look at this drop. 149. You're gonna love this one. 149 is 65 cents. Yep, 149, 65 cents. But look at the run in the last 6 weeks. From 65 cents to 317. So is it extended? You betcha, but the momentum could take it as high as 4.5. HTOO, big pop, big wedge. Kind of like that look to it. Look at the low volume ebb down here. Feels like a stock that can still pop. Lateral resistance would call for a move to about 9.25. ICVX, this went vertical from 4 to 16 to 300% in a couple days, and now the pullback. If it backs and tilts in here and holds, we may see a rerun. IMRA, explosive gap, multi-week coil, another explosive gap, a run up to resistance and target double top near 5, and then pull down and consolidate at wave 4. If you get a fifth wave, your targets are 6 3/4 and 9. IMVT, breaking out of a base, forming a little flag, and just channeling up, and what a beauty on Friday, a bullish engulfing bar. Now it looks like this is a stock that can accelerate high teens for starters. KNSA, nice, another biotech with a beautiful chart. Stair stepping its way higher at the highest level in a 1.5 years. Next target, 19. LI in the Chinese electric vehicle manufacturing group, along with NEO and XPEV, popped nicely. Now it's forming a wedge. For 4 to 5 days now, it's held this zone. I don't want it under 1995.20. If it pops, we're looking at 25, 28, and more. MGNI, exploding move in November vertically, and pulled back and formed the wedge. Nice buy there. Popped out and wedged again. So it's a 1, 2, 3, 4. Looking for fifth wave to 14, 15. MGNX, a beautiful base breakout. We put a swing on it. Ran up to target number 1 and pulled back. It's been coiling for 6 weeks. Friday was a good day. It was up 7%. If we can get going, we can get 7.5 and 9. MLCO, Melco gets a gaming license from Macau and then goes vertical. They get 10-year extension, and you can see how this one engulfing bar on Friday, now targeting 14.5. MNDY tech traded swing. I love that inverse head and shoulder. There's your breakout, a little 4-day flag. My targets are 145 and 160. MNSO, breakaway gap, pop, and prolonging wedge, another pop and wedge. Looking for one more that takes you to 14 and 16. MODN, beautiful rising channel for like 7 months now, 6 months, almost 7. 21 to 41, and my target now is 48.9. Momo, big base breakout. Look at the wedge on it. We can get a pop here above 9. I think you're going to be 11 and 13. Good chart. NTNX, one of my favorite little companies. I think is going to be acquired next year for sure. At least that's my take. A beautiful run early in the week, got up to almost 33 3/4, and it's pulled back before bouncing on Friday. Look, I'd like to keep this one above 29, but certainly want to keep it above the channel around 27.5. Target 36.5 and maybe 40 or better. Oh, I am finally, look at this base. It's a beauty, isn't it? Look what happened Friday. It popped just a little. The volume picked up. But is it breaking out of this large 3-month coil? If it does, you're looking at $5, maybe more. OM, pop, pull back. We put a swing on it. It's gone from 17.5 3/4 to 26 and change. Friday was a great day for it, up to 45, 10%. Buying was a solid 700 and 7,000. And you can see if we get up here, and this is the resistance, we have room to run. I would have to say into that zone right there, targeting 33.4. Nice inverse head and shoulder type base breakout on Puma with a coil and a pop. This is fantastic. I'm looking for 6, 6.5, and 7 on Puma. That's a swing. Stick with it. PCVX, explosive gap, a run up, and now a multi-week coil that sets this up for a move maybe into the 50s and 60s. BSB, beautiful biotech stock with a double bottom base breakout, breakaway gap, pop, wedge, pop, wedge. My target's 12.25.5. Perion, well, it's one of my favorites from a long time ago. You remember we first gave you the stock at 5 3/4. It went to the high 20s. Spent the year consolidating, broke out again, now it's backed off. So it's right on support. I really need to see this hold, but market may pull it down. I think eventually 32 and 40 are targets. Impinge, well, we put it out as a swing. It broke out and then pulled back and reversed. And unfortunately, it went from 129 to a low at the 1078 range, which was my key support area before bouncing on Friday, about 8 points or about 7.5%. Let's see if it can hold the trend line and moving average for now. Your rebound targets are back to about 129 and then 145. Purple, after a long decline, PRPL based, broke out and wedged. I'm still thinking the stock hits 6 and 7 3/4 as target. PRVB, another biotech looking good. Break out of the base, form a wedge, pop, pullback, pop, pullback, pop, and now wedging again. I'm targeting 11 and 13 on this one. It has some kind of upside potential. I like to look at it. And so does Rocket. Big drop. Another biotech stock with a rising channel, targeting 27 and 34. REPL exploded the last week and a half with a breakaway gap that held the breakout point, and then ran up to the target zone at 28. Friday's high, 28.53, and it closed 25.83. So a big negative engulfing reversal day. Be careful. I'd like to see this set up for a week or 2 or 3, form a flag or something, but that could be a real good potential for next year. MED, another beauty reversal. Look how long this stock came down. By the way, this is a reverse split. Didn't come down that much. But right now, pop, 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 pull back, pop, and then a coil or a wedge. Bottom line, we break out of here, we're going up to 7 3/4 8. RNA exploded Wednesday in 2 consecutive inside days. It's setting up a wedge. Let's look at it on an hourly. You can see what I mean. Keep your eye on this next week, because if it pops that and that perfect pennant, it could fly into the mid-20s. RNG tech trader swing, pop, breakaway gap, pull back and coil, and then this coil here broke out there, ran up to that resistance at the prior highs, and then pull back. But I love this for a move to 42 3/4, and then run to 46.7 for starters, and then 50. ROIV, beautiful chart, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 waves up to right to the target and resistance. Might see the stock pull back, but I love the overall look in the base and the rising pattern, the stair step move up. It's something to keep your eye on. Put it in your inventory list for future potential. This might be a target and a play for 23. RVPH, another pop pullback, and maybe it wants to go again, but Friday it backed off. Nevertheless, targeting 6 1/4 and 9 for this one. Rhythm was one of our better trades this year, as it popped right there, and I put a swing on it in the 4 3/4 range, I believe. I'll have to check the prices. It did get up to 31 and been coiling for months now, but take a look at last week's action, breakout, retest. If we can get through there, targeting 34.5. Let's see who we gave you. It's the bearish ETF for oil. I believe it goes up, targeting 30, 31, and 36.7. Seed got hammered last week. I was told, because it's so thin, a couple margin calls. I caught this one on a sharp decline late on Friday. I'm a big believer in this company. I think it's a home run, but this is an opportunity in my opinion. Now, technically it's a breakdown, so you had to pay attention to that. Next support is 640.50. SIL. No, that's a silver ETF, and after breaking out of an inverse head and shoulders, it's platforming. Looks pretty good for a move into the low 30s. Smart sheet. Beautiful base breakaway gap. Little pullback test of the gap and held, and it popped out and flagged. Now looking for 50. SMMT, one explosive move and beautiful wedge after that. What would the summit measure move be? I believe for starters, you're going to test this area, and that's all the way up at 8. That could be huge. For starters though, 5.5, 7, and 8 are targets. TAL, Tech Trader former swing, and a beautiful move last week along with EDU, but this one in particular did very well on Friday, up 16.5% in a lousy market on big volume. Now looking for 9 1/4. TBLA, a Tech Trader swing after it popped and pulled back, is now coiling for about 3 weeks. So if it pops out of here, I'm looking for 3.5 and 5. TERN, a nice setup on this biotech stock, pop flag, and then another pop to resistance and another test of resistance. So obviously the objective on this one is to get it up through 7 3/4, then your target's 10.5. Techno Glass, nice base pattern, pop, stair step its way up, but 5 waves up, and now it's consolidating a little more sloppily in this area. If it does get through a 32, we're looking at 35 and 38. TH, beautiful 5-wave move. The 5th wave's underway. It could be a big one, and I would look for mid-20s. First, starting at 19.20 and then 24.5. TMDX, beautiful rising channel after a large engulfing reversal day back in February. It literally went from 10 to 60, but this rising flag says it isn't done yet. Mid-channel target now, 70. TME, Chinese, Tencent Music, breaks out, wedges, pops, and is flagging. Boy, it's a steep angle of descent. I don't know how long they can, hold this angle, but if it does, your next target's 9 1/4, 9.5. How about this junior oil? TRMD has gone from the January low of 617 to a high in the low 30s, and right now it's on the verge in the ascending bull coil of a breakout and a run to at least 35 and maybe 40. Wow. Here's another junior oil. base breakout, pullback wedge, prop, and falling wedge, and then another breakout. Targeting 11. Very inverse head and shoulder with an island reversal and a breakout retest. This could be a point where this stock can go pop and go 10 and 11.5. Wave has had a beautiful reversal off the May low, where this stock got down to $1.16, and Wednesday's high was 675. So it's a six-fold increase, and may have to back and fill a bit, but I think it can get to as high as 9 or 10 eventually. XPEV, the Chinese electric vehicle manufacturer, broke away with a big gap, went up through the 50, accelerated to resistance and pulled back for about 3 weeks, and look at the beautiful wedge or coil in here. This is a nice setup. I think we can see retest of 13 and then 15 and 17. And finally, Zixi, one of our favorites from when we first watched the stock go. I think we first, when it broke out and pulled back and wedged in this area, that's where we were on it. Right there at about 7 3/4, it's made it up to doubling near 15. High was 1450. It looks like it can go higher, but there's resistance up in its range. I am no longer long that. That was a personal position. I did a trade on it. Okay, let's go to some shorts and close it out. Not a long list. I haven't done my homework on the short side yet, but there's so many here that I think you should look at. We'll start off alphabetically with ALGN. You can see the long downtrend is trying to break out here, but until it gets up to 225, I wouldn't be covering my short. There's still some downside of targets down in the 182, 180 range and worse. AVN broke down, rallied back, snapped down, rising wedge, hammered, and then another rising wedge. It wasn't able to break out yet. But keep an eye on those large wedges for me. I'm not sure what it is. It could be a base if it breaks out, but a rollover can get you back in the high 20s. The ILL came down last week and is on the verge of another breakdown. There's some support at a 90, 97. That's your next target. Below that, look out. CDMA has been a long downtrend from double topping in the high 90s, mid 90s down to 12. Doesn't look done yet. Look, can't even bounce. I got a target of 10. Carvana, one of the big disasters of the year. We were lucky enough to get in at 155 short. It made it down to, would you believe, 3.5. And a monster volume that day, and I said, cover your shorts down there. 118 million share traded. Now the run up to resistance doesn't look very good, and until it breaks the declining tops line, it could still roll over and even go to 0. Dino, I put out 2 new oil shorts. I'm convinced the oil is going lower. I think I might. Multiple waves up on Sinclair, finally topped in the 66 range and plunged down to 49. This little bearish wedge tells me we go lower. My target's 42 and 35. The other oil that I'm shorting, or that I went short on and gave a swing on, Laredo. It's right on the apex of the neckline of a large topping pattern, which could plunge into the 37 and 28 ranges. Those are my targets. ESTC still looks ugly, and it did bounce last week, but then came right back down again. I don't know what this does, but any move through the triple bottom at 52 could lead to a $40, $42 stock. EXPE, Expedia doesn't look good either. After topping in a head and shoulder type formation, it came down. It's got what I would call a falling wedge. You break down from here, we're probably headed to 74 and then 67. NET, massive top information, 1, 2, 3, 4, fifth wave down, is truncated or shortened, and so far the test held. I can't be too confident what I'm seeing here, unless he gets back on above 55.6, I would cover, but beneath that 38, and then maybe down in that high 20s are targets. Overstock looks terrible and continues to drop along with all the Bitcoin-related stocks. This went from 115 down to 20. I've been telling you for months to short, continue to stay short that stock. My next target is 16 and 10. Robert Half in the executive recruiting business, a head and shoulder top breakdown, and this is where we gave you a tech trader swing short at 99, eventually reaching 65 on a plunge on earnings and bouncing. But should this get back below 71, I'm looking for a retest in the mid 60s and maybe even high 50s. Snow, well, with all the software stocks making a noise, this one's not. It ran up to the declining top line, moving average and rolled back over. I wouldn't be shocked to see a retest of 125 or even 111. SSTK in a long downtrend. Trying to base in here, but I'm not seeing it. And if I see this go underneath, say 49, it could plunge back down to 45 and even take that out. And then we're in big trouble when this stock down into the mid 30s. Tandem, massive top formation as well. Broke down there. We put a swing on, I believe. I don't remember what price, but the bottom line, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7-way move. And even though this looked like we're trying to rally, it might be fading here. That could be a bear flag. Next target's 33 and 28. Trex broke down here. Bear wedge, bear wedge, bear wedge. I mean, it doesn't look good, folks. I don't know how far down it goes, but if it gets to 38.5, my next target, you might see 33, 34. TTEC, top tier. It's been a steady decline for a year and a quarter. And when the market rallied, this is barely able to bounce, and now it's rolling back over again. Let's see what happens on this one, but my targets are 39 and 35. GT, tech target. Looks like it broke the neckline of a massive head and shoulder tech top. Broke down, it's got a falling wedge. Eventual target, 32. Upward, working its way down. Triple top, breakdown, bear flag, bear wedge, rising wedge. Another larger wedge, down channel. I mean, hardly can respond to market rallies. Not a good sign. Obviously, stop would be over 12.5, 13 range. Right now, the target calls for a move down, believe it or not, to 8.5, 3/4. WRLD made another new multi-year low on Friday. It looks like it could collapse. I don't know how far it goes, but I wouldn't be shocked to see low 40s, low 50s, and low 40s. Zoom, you would think that this stock would have had a really nice response to the rally, but it didn't. Unless it gets over 90, I would stay short. Probably the cover would be over 82 because above there it breaks the trend line. But it's right on support. It looks like it could collapse with targets in the 60 and 52 zones. And finally, Zscaler, also ugly and with a massive top breakdown, retest, stair step this way, lower plunges. Spends a few months trying to rally, but rolls over. And it looks like the target has to be in the mid 90s and then low 80s. Let's look at some of the ugly boxer shorts that are out there, and also a comprehensive look at the markets, the indicators, the ETFs, and the components, as well as some longs and shorts that are of interest. This is a very important time, folks. I can't emphasize to you how important. Make sure that you're well read and on this video. This is one of my more important videos of the year, I believe. Keep your eyes on where support resistance are and what you should be building an inventory of stocks for when this market does reverse. There's a lot of good ones. For now, this is HB out. Have a great rest of your weekend, and look forward to in the next week or so a list of the top 23 for 23. HB out. Bye-bye.